Hey, this is Troy Erickson from the Secrets of Scale podcast. And today I'm back with a really cool episode with somebody that I worked with over 2 years ago, probably
Yeah.
one of the very first like consulting clients I had after I
hmm
started one of my groups. And I'd like to introduce her because she's very kind, very humble, an awesome seven-figure entrepreneur. She is a breakthrough coach for small business owners on the verge of burnout, which is something that a lot of people are a bit afraid to talk about. And today we're going to fully open up and talk about it. So she
Amen.
helps a lot of business owners create, full-time profits with a part-time schedule that does not burn you out. So there's no like extra strategies or crazy things you need to do, not like 3 hours of meditation like a lot of people preach. But it's just like a new approach to the way they operate. So I'd like to welcome Tara Wagner.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And it has been almost 3 years, which super freaks me out. It was, no, I guess it was about 2.5 years. Yeah, that went by really super fast. We connected like in the middle of pandemic, right
Yes.
at the height of everything. And it was fantastic. You had such an impactful just shift on my business and the way that I looked at things, the way I did things, up leveling my skills. Like it was just fantastic. I owe a lot to you. And I was saying this earlier, but it's worth repeating. I have a lot of people that come to me and ask me, why are your emails so good? How do I get this good? And I'm like, you need to go talk to Troy.
I appreciate
You're
that. Thank you.
good stuff, man.
I think you were like one of the first people that came through my unsub secret funnel back when I
Yeah.
first launched that. And
Yeah.
you
I
always
saw this
remember.
Facebook ad and I'm like, who is this guy? And this is curious. I'm super interested in this. This is worth testing out. Let me test this out. And then, yeah, I love the fact that what you do is actually unique to you. There's a lot of people out there that are just kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Obviously there's going to be similarities between everybody because there's only so many strategies under the sun, but you come at it from such a fresh perspective. So it was really cool to see.
Thank you. Yeah. So let's talk about you a little bit. So I don't think
Yeah.
a lot of people in my circle know you other than, some of my members that I've consulted and coached before. So
Yeah.
could you give a little bit of background about how you became an entrepreneur and how you
Yeah.
specifically started focusing on burnout?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been an entrepreneur my entire adult life. I've been working for myself for 22 years. My first business was I started off as an independent massage therapist, kind of freelancing, scaled that into a mobile massage company, working with other therapists. We did spa parties, we did all kinds of different things. And that business burned me all the way out. So after 8 years, I closed it down. I was struggling with a lot of health conditions that it had created. I was working 7 days a week, 16 hours a day. And it was a mess. I was a mess. My marriage was a mess. My family was suffering. My health was suffering. Everything was just kind of falling apart. And I talk about burnout a lot, and you have to understand there's a lot of different things that can go into causing burnout. The main thing for me in that business was mindset. When you're carrying around a lot of baggage, when you're carrying around a lot of limiting beliefs, worry about what other people are going to think, imposter syndrome, anything like that, it's like trying to climb a mountain with 300 pounds on your back. It's tiring. It burns you out. And so from that first business, I had to pull back. I had to lick my wounds a little bit. I had to do a lot of healing, a lot of self-reflection, and a lot of personal development. I knew that I was an entrepreneur at heart. I was raised by one. I knew I was going to go back into business, and I knew that I couldn't carry that same stuff. My zone of genius, though, is taking complicated, complex, messy situations and turning them into something that is practical, actionable, easy, smooth, organized, because that's the way my brain has to function. It has to get everything organized or I just can't think straight. I might be a little ADHD like the rest of entrepreneurs. And so I spent a couple years understanding mindset, belief breakthrough. How do you actually change these things? There's all the amazing quotes online. You can see all the things like, change your mindset and stop caring what other people think, and all of the inspirational memes that you can find. But it was how do you actually do that? How do you stop caring about what people think? Going through that process, figuring out, learning that how allowed me to radically change myself, grow myself, create a life that I loved. We actually decided to sell everything and travel in an RV for 4 years. It was this amazing experience. And through that experience, I had people coming to me saying, how do you do this? Like, can you coach me through this? Can you teach me these methods? And so I started coaching in 2010, just on mindset, just how do you do these things? How do you grow yourself? And started building another business, and then started to realize, okay, my mindset's in a good place, but now my business is starting to burn me out. And that's where people don't understand. It can be a mindset thing. It could be a business thing. It could be a habits thing, right? You're just like not taking good care of yourself. Maybe you're checking all the other boxes, but you're just not putting your health as a priority. And so then I had to, put my zone of genius to the test again and figure it out, figure out a better way to do business. I was not coaching business owners until 2017, when I kind of just had this like come to Jesus moment of like, I love small business. I love entrepreneurs. I love the different industries, and decided to start doing the mindset work with them, and realized it's the same thing. We can solve their mindset problems, but they will get recreated if we don't solve their business operations, the way their business is structured, anything from the offers that they have and how those offers are created, their price points, all of the kind of just basic business planning, into the marketing, their sales techniques, their systems and operations, their hiring, their management of people. There's so many different aspects that go into it. So I don't teach marketing. I really teach business ownership, because so many of us were coming into entrepreneurship good at what we do, but that doesn't mean we're good at business. That's a different skill set. And so really helping people to develop that business acumen and develop themselves at the same time. It's not a new marketing strategy. It's a new way to approach your business and approach yourself, up-leveling both of those things, so that I say you can crush your goals, not your soul. And it's marrying the mindset and the skill set, the practical and the impractical, or the intangible and the tangible, so that we can create something that we're proud of, and so that we can sustain it. We can have the fulfillment without the burnout.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people making that lead them to burning out? Because you mentioned a lot of things there.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of people listening. They're like, oh gosh, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't realize some of the mistakes.
So I actually have a class that talks about some of the main big mistakes. So I'll bring up some of those. The first one makes people really uncomfortable, and it pisses a lot of people off, and it flies in the face of what we're told. What we're told is that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, and that is 100% true. Diversity is important. However, you have to build those streams of income one at a time. So if you picture yourself, on a ravine, right? Like one side of the ravine is your financial goals. The other side of the ravine is where you're at right now. You got to build a bridge from where you are to where you want to get to. That's your offers, your marketing and sales strategies, your funnels, all of those things. What most people do, newer entrepreneurs especially, but all the way into like multiple 6 figures, is they will try to build multiple bridges all at the same time. And so none of them are actually getting finished. They have all these pieces of bridges, and they're wondering why they can't get ahead. And it's because they're not moving forward. They're moving in 10 different directions. And so that is one of the first things that makes it's hard to do. It's a hard decision to make, because you feel like they're your babies. You want to do them all at once. And I always tell people, it's not that you're not going to do them. It's that you're going to do one at a time. Which one is closest to cash? Focus on building that one bridge at a time. So you're not spreading yourself too thin. It's going to feel like you're slowing down, but you're actually speeding up, because instead of spreading your energy across so many different projects, you're zeroing in on one project, getting it really, really fine-tuned, getting your marketing and your sales funnels really fine-tuned, putting the automations into place. And then when it's making money, investing that money into skilled help they can come in and help you to manage that thing. Then you get to go back and build another bridge if you decide to. Some business owners think they have to have 5 bridges just to get to 6 figures. Usually you need one bridge. And at that point, there's a lot of people that are like, you know what, I'm happy. This is good. I could scale this one bridge to 7 figures. Like, why don't I just do that? Why don't you? There's no reason you have to have diversity inside your business. Now you can have diversity outside your business. If you have one bridge, please invest. Like, please put your money into retirement funds. Please diversify in that way. But don't feel like you have to spread yourself too thin because somebody who is way far ahead of you has said this is what they're doing. That's what they're doing at that level. But you got to get to your next level and then to the next level and then to the next level. And you build those things over time.
Gosh, I think I want to do the little preach emoji right now because
I can get on a
really
soapbox
good.
with some of these, let me tell you.
You're right. It's like there's a lot of people who just think that because Jeff Bezos is doing so many things that they should do it. But
Right.
like it's
Jeff
when you sit
Bezos has
down
a
and you
team of
focus.
millions behind him. How big is your team? If you have 1 to 3 people on your team, you can manage 1 to 3 projects at a time, max.
Right, exactly. And a lot of people don't realize that you just need one.
Yeah.
And they get burned out very quickly with all these different things they're doing. And gosh, and it's like one thing that's helped me personally a lot is just realizing that nothing can ever be done. Nothing can ever be finished because whether I have one
Yes.
stream or I have 20 streams, there's always something I could be doing. And the more
Yeah.
I've accepted that and realized that there's never a finish line, I've just
Yes.
kind of let go of all the other things and just focus on the one thing that matters the most. Because
Yeah.
one of my past guests, Tanner Chittister, he posted on Facebook recently and basically mentioned that people are just chasing so many different things and
Mhm.
that it just pulls them away from the one thing that they should be doing, that they should be really loving.
Yeah.
And
And we know this, right? We know shiny object syndrome. We know that distractions are unhealthy, but we don't realize how it's actually showing up for us. We think of shiny objects and distractions as bad ideas. They're not, they're good ideas. I always tell people the hardest no you're going to say in business is to yourself. Because as an entrepreneur, chances are you are an idea generating machine and every single one of them excites you and lights you up and you want to strike while the fire's hot, while the iron's hot, whatever it is. You want to take action, right? You want to go, you want to do the things, but you can't. You're one person. You have 24 hours in a day. Hopefully, roughly 80 of them are spent sleeping. Hopefully, not 80, 8 a day. Hopefully, 8 of them are spent doing other things with family or working on your health or having a life outside of your business, which means you have a finite amount of time and a finite team, if you have that team, depending on where you're at your business, to focus in and to say, okay, what comes first? Then what comes next? What's later? What can I put on, a bulletin board so I don't forget about it? But I'm going to focus in on this one thing right here. And there's a lot of fear when we do that because it's this FOMO, right? Like, what am I going to miss out on? Other people are doing this. Am I going to miss the boat? Am I like all of these things come up? But I will tell you, every single business owner that closes their doors because of burnout, every single one of them was spreading themselves too thin. They were trying to take on too much, thinking that it was a good idea. And that means it's a good idea to implement it. And that's just not always the case. There's great ideas that might not be yours or might not be right now.
yeah, it's interesting too, because I've had an idea. By the time this launches, the idea will be launched, but so I can
Yay.
say it, I'm launching the site called copywriting.org. And
Nice.
I'll talk about it separately in a different video, but I've been sitting on this idea for at least 3 years. It was definitely before I knew you.
Yeah.
And it's crazy like how hard it was to sit on this and just understand like, hey, this is a good idea, but it is not going to make me money right now in,
It's not a now thing.
2019, 18, whenever I thought of it. But
Right.
nowadays it might. So there's just everything has a time and a season, and just people need to
Exactly.
understand that.
Exactly. The thing that I talk to clients about is it a now thing? You have now, you have next. Those are the things that are on your periphery. They're coming up next. You might be slowly starting to gather resources for them, but it's not your main focus. It's not where the majority of your energy is going. And then everything else is in later. And what I tell clients is you can have 1 to 3 nows, 3 to 5 next, but you're only going to move 1 to 3 over at a time. Everything else is in later. You can organize later however you want to, but there is a natural order to things. And if you sit down and just look at it, oftentimes that natural order is going to make sense. It's just going to annoy you. It's not something you want to do. We want to do it all. We're idea generating machines. We're excited. That's why we work for ourselves. But again, that's why the hardest no we're going to say is to ourselves.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, and don't get me wrong, I love Gary Vee, but people watch Gary Vee
Yes.
and they think that if they're
Amen.
not doing so many things at once, that they're falling behind.
Yep.
And I think
Gary
that's,
Vee is the anomaly. And for many people, they try to be Gary Vee. And who knows, maybe in 10 years, Gary Vee is going to totally change his tune, right? We haven't seen how it's going to play out for him. Hustle feels good in the beginning. It doesn't feel good when it catches up to you. He might also just be superhuman. And for some weird reason, he needs an hour of sleep a day, and these things might not catch up to him. That doesn't mean that we are not as good of entrepreneurs simply because we need sleep and family time and hobbies to keep our cup full and allow us to show up to our work with more energy and more creativity.
yeah. So a really good question that I think all the entrepreneurs listening are going to like is, as entrepreneurs, we all think we're like very different. Sometimes
Yeah.
even in conversations with my friends and my team, when we mention regular people, we literally say like, normal people, regular
Right.
people. And we have like this crazy, weird brain inside our head that forces us to do a lot of weird things. So what are
Yep.
some of the differences that you've
Mm.
noticed since you've worked with both regular people and entrepreneurs? Like, how are
Yeah.
entrepreneurs different? Maybe, what's another mistake that they're more prone to making?
It really depends on the entrepreneur's stage of business. So like beginning entrepreneurs, and I think of beginning entrepreneurs as people like up to $100,000, they are still very much in the like lots of ideas, but doubt and fear, right? Like I got to keep learning. So that's a big mistake. Like I need more education. I need more this, I need more that, instead of like, I'm going to learn through just testing this. Whereas, people get more successful when they're just like, F it. Like, let me just throw it out. Let me just test it. Whatever. If I lose some money, whatever, like you can always make more money, but I can't get back my time. So if I sit here and overanalyze and try to figure things out, like it's just going to be, it's just gonna be a mess. Like, I think that is the overanalyzing is a really common mistake. Partially, I do think a high number of entrepreneurs are ADD, ADHD, neurodivergent in some way. We think differently. We think quickly, and we think in a lot of different directions at one time, which is not a bad thing. I actually don't think of this as a disorder. I just think of it as one way that the human brain works, and it lends itself really well to entrepreneurship. But because of that, we have to bring in skills and tools and people who complement our strengths with their own strengths. So not having systems, not having habits. I find that a lot of entrepreneurs were so after freedom. I want time freedom. I want financial freedom, that we forget that we need structure to create freedom. That was a huge one for me. Like, don't tie me down, man. Like, I don't want to be locked in. I don't want to have a schedule. I'll work 7 days, 12 hours a day, but like, I don't want to have any schedule. It's ridiculous stuff. But because of that, you just end up all over the place. Chaos is the thing that robs you of freedom, not routines and structures. So having those routines and structures is a big one that takes people another big leap. Loosening up those routines and structures for some people is a big one that takes people to another big leap, because it allows them to tap into their intuition. I find that in most cases, what we're always looking for is a healthy balance from multiple places. And if we don't have that skill within us, we bring in the people that do. We bring in the people who have the organization that can create the structure that we can move around freely and intuitively in. Or, we bring in the people that have the skill that can take something to the next level if we just can't wrap our brains around it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know a lot of times, people will listen and they'll think like, wow, it sounds really good. And
Yeah.
then as soon as the podcast is over, reality sits back in and they're not
Yeah.
listening anymore. And, what would you tell somebody who's listening and they feel kind of burnt out right now? Like, what should they do immediately after this podcast that can maybe like make them feel a little better immediately?
Yeah.
And then like slowly work on fixing the bigger
Yeah.
things that you've mentioned.
Okay, can I do a little plug here?
Of course.
Okay, so I have a checklist. It's the Reversing Small Business Burnout Checklist. One of the things that I find is that people who are dealing with burnout, do you remember from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation when he pulls out the lights from the box and it's this big tangled jumbled mess and it's one string of lights, but you can't tell where it starts and where it stops. That's kind of like burnout. It's one problem, but actually it's such a big tangled problem that there's a lot of things in there. And so you've got to be able to sit down with some detachment, with some outside perspective, and be able to detangle that for yourself and say, okay, of the different things that lead to burnout, these things are good. I can check these things off. I'm good in these areas, but these things right here are the areas that I'm struggling with. And that's what the checklist does. It literally walks you through the areas that you need to be able to check off to be able to have a healthy business and correct this problem. And it does it in the order of priority. So if you can check off number 3 and 5, you know you need to start with number 2 or 1, 2, and 4. And being able to have that clarity then can allow you to have an action plan, because just like I would tell somebody to build one bridge at a time, fix one problem at a time, start from the top and systematically go through and get the support you need, get the education, the skill set, the, whatever fixes or changes that you need. Each one's going to be slightly different, but just go through the checklist and be able to check them off. So it's a free download if somebody wants to grab it. It's Exotara, TARA.us/checklist. And
Awesome.
I would say do that. Make sense of the problem, create an action plan, take one of those things, the top thing that you cannot check off, and put it on your to-do list. Make it a now thing, because you're going to get 1%, 5%, 10% better every time you can just go through and clean those things up. And then remember that as businesses grow, you're going to get to come back to that again and up level some things, right? The systems that are going to get you to your next level aren't going to get you to the level after that. And so there's always that job of upgrading as we go. But once you understand that that is a skill set, that managing overwhelm and burnout is actually a skill set that anybody can develop, you get really good at it. It's not a problem anymore. It's like, oh, this is coming up again. I need to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm good.
Yeah, I like the concept of a checklist. I don't do that exactly, but I like where you're going, because whenever, like, I'm getting good at recognizing when something's wrong in my head and I'm being weighed down too much, or like I'll be around Julia, my fiance, and she'll say, hey, I can tell you're thinking way too much right now.
Yeah.
So whether I realize it or she realizes it, I go, as a lot of people know, I love whiteboards. I have like 3 of them in this room. So I'll go up and I'll just write down everything that's bugging me right now, literally everything. And then I'll try to write down the things that I'm trying to accomplish. And then I'll kind of organize it like you talked about, like the 1 to 3 nows, and then like things that are kind of important, and then things that frankly can wait.
Yep.
And heck, I might even erase some of the things because they just don't matter.
Yep. That honestly, Troy, that right there is exactly what I teach, or one of the tools I teach. We call it the now, next, later. I have the same thing on a whiteboard right here. We have a box for now, a box for next. I do sticky notes so that I can move things around easily. All of our laters, I categorize into what we call top hats. Top hats are like, the hats you need to be wearing in your business. We have 6 top hats that we need to be wearing. So you categorize all the ideas, the challenges, the problems, and then you can sit down and organize them and prioritize them. Like, what is it naturally, like something that if I solved this, it would solve these other problems, or this naturally needs to come before this can be created. And then we have an ongoing and in progress box. We have a delegated box. So if there's anything on mine now that somebody else can do, that's my reminder to delegate it so that I'm not spending time outside of my zone of genius. We have a don't box. Don't do these things. And we have a done box, just because there's that little endorphin thing of like being able to move something from one category down to done and being able to see your progress stacking up. That's just so satisfying. And so you're literally creating a dopamine addiction when you do that. So that's the only thing that I would tell you is add to your whiteboard, do it with sticky notes, and then move things over to a done, because you're going to look at that and feel like a total badass.
Exactly. And it's good to be able to see that as well.
It is.
So Exotara So
Mm-hmm.
XO Tara
XO Tara.
.us/training is where you.
Slash checklist.
Oh, sorry, slash
They're
checklist.
welcome to go to slash training too. That's something else.
Okay.
Check
Awesome.
them all out. It's all good.
So part of that, and you know, you and I have worked together in the realm of email before. So obviously
Yeah.
somebody's going to opt in, they'll start getting emails. And gosh, it's really cool to think, because I've told your story a lot before about your dog. Apparently I helped save your dog's life. If you'd like to share.
You did.
It's like a weird testimonial between like email
such
marketing and
a weird
puppies.
testimonial, but it's so cool. And it comes with a really adorable picture of my dog who had climbed up on my desk that day because he didn't like that I was working. So we had adopted this dog. It was our COVID dog. You know, we went to the shelter, adopted a dog, and he was the chillest, mellowest dog ever. Come to find out, he was so chill and mellow because he had a major heart problem, and his heart was beating like 20 beats per minute, which is like, I think their resting rate is like 70 beats per minute and their active rate is 140. So his brain wasn't telling his heart to beat, and he was exhausted. And so we found out what was going on, and we had to make a decision. Do we give a dog a pacemaker, which we didn't have the cash for, or do we put him down? He is the sweetest, most loving, affectionate dog ever. And we were like, look, we can spend $5K on a vacation that lasts a week. We can spend $5K eating out, not in one night, obviously. Like there's a lot of ways to blow that money, but to spend it on this little tiny thing that brings us so much joy and love, which to us, those are our values, like happiness and fun and love and connection. And to get, you know, another 6 years with this amazing creature, we were like, we need to do that. Okay, how are we gonna afford it was the next thing. And we had the surgery scheduled, and it was gonna have to go on a credit card, which we are a debt-free family. So that was a big deal for us. And you helped me rework a live launch. And I think we had, let me look at the numbers. You 5x'd that launch by helping me go through email copy, by helping me go through, I think you went through my sales page copy, just giving me pointers and helping me to adjust not what I was doing, but just tiny ways that I was saying things so that it was clear. And it 5x that launch over my last launch. And it was an amazing process, and it saved my dog's life. So you got an adorable photo out of it. You're welcome. And we got 6 more years with this amazing little guy. His name is Jackson.
Oh, well, thank you. That is very cool to hear. 5x. And since then, I think you've gone on as well, and you know, done some amazing things with email marketing, including open rates, sales, and all that.
Yeah. So I never go to promo tab. I never go to spam. Like literally, I don't think it's ever happened. Our open rates are, I mean, with the Apple thing, I think it's like 35%. Not including Apple's open rates, and about 45% with Apple's open rates. I get so many responses to my emails of people just saying, wow, this is an amazing email. Sales emails, right? Most people think that they don't like sales emails. And people will reply to me saying, this is such an incredible email. Thank you so much for sending this. You know, I love the way that you do this. How can I do that? How can I learn? Like, this is amazing. Like and it's just, I love to write. I will say, like, I came into this with an appreciation for it, but creating things that converted, writing to convert is a very different skill. And the things that you taught me in terms of, you know, making sure your email gets seen, gets read, gets enjoyed, gets forwarded, gets replied to, you know, making sure all of those things happen, like the strategies that you taught me to get people engaging. Like one of the strategies you taught me, if I can kind of like give people a teaser, is one of the first emails you send out invites people to respond back, and they get a goodie when they do. And that email, I then can open up a dialogue with those people. And almost every single one of those people, number one, are surprised that I responded back. Number two, are surprised that I gave them great feedback, just the way that you did with me. that got me on board. You sent me like a 5-minute video, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. He knows his stuff. This is awesome. Almost every single one of those people converts into another program. So it's just been it's been game changer, like seriously a game changer. And I am so appreciative of what you've taught me. And yeah, thank you. It's been great.
Thank you as well. That means a lot to me. It really does. And, before we wrap up here, and I'll drop the link in the comments and I'll say it one more time as well. But what are some, breakthroughs that some of your clients have had when it comes to just the things that they've been able to accomplish, whether that's, something in their
Yeah.
business or a revenue goal or just a
Yeah.
personal goal, like being able to spend more time with their family?
Yeah. So the first one that comes to mind is Kim. Kim was a child therapist who struggled to market herself. She was struggling a lot with imposter syndrome and just kind of getting out of her own way. So she didn't necessarily need help on the business side of things at that stage. She just couldn't book out her practice. She was been half booked for like 3 years and was struggling financially. Within 3 months, just working on mindset together, she was able to get herself fully booked. She did so well just from shifting that, because the only thing she did was just feel more confident, start asking for referrals. And we talked a little bit about a referral system that she could put into place. Within a year, her practice had expanded so much. She was hiring, I want to say 2 to 3 more people. And a year after that, I think she now has like a 5 or 6 person practice. So that was just fantastic. We did some business stuff on the tail end of that to keep things organized. She doesn't work more than 40 hours a week. It's just been phenomenal to watch everything that she's done. I've had other people though, that they come in and maybe they're full-time caregivers. I have one gal who is she is a full-time caregiver to a special needs child. And so showing up as a mom, that's her first goal. So sitting down and creating a business that was 100% flexible for her, that, she could create something that she could step out of if she needed to, she could step back into if she needed to, that still was fulfilling. And being able to give her something that gave her a revenue stream in her family. She's not trying to go for 6, 7 figures. 6 figures, I think is probably even more than she's assuming that she'll ever want to go for. Her desire was just, I want a business for myself. I want another stream of income for our family. And I want to be able to have an outlet for myself without deprioritizing my family. So there's these very different extremes in terms of what people will come to me with and what they're trying to do. But the overarching thing is, I want to build a business in a healthy way. I don't want to be working. I don't want to give into hustle culture. Hustle is not a bad word if it's healthy, if it's done in the right way. There's a time and a place and a way to do it. But making sure that you, know what your vision is, know what you actually want and what are your values. You can then craft anything with the right strategies to be able to reach that goal. So it's been really fun to see. I love working in so many different industries as well. Mostly what I work with is service-based businesses, but online, offline, solopreneurs, bigger businesses. Like I love the diversity of it and the fact that when you boil it all down, it's the same stuff. Doesn't matter what industry, doesn't matter what stage of business. It's the same exact stuff that we get to do. And it's really, really fun to be a part of it.
That's amazing, Tara. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
if you kind of want to get started down the Tara Wagner track, you can go over to xotara.us/checklist.
Checklists.
Got to write
or
that
training,
down.
whatever.
Yes. So yeah, you can go there, check it out, and get your mind right, because a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Very last question for you, rapid fire.
Sure.
A lot of people think the mindset is woo-woo. What do you tell the people who are on the fence and they're like, gosh, I don't know if it's woo-woo, or I don't know if this could really change my life?
I would tell them, yes, it can be woo-woo. Some of it can be completely impractical and completely useless. However, mindset is not a concept. It is a construct. It is literally something that we know is a thing. It's what psychology is based on. It's how our brains work. There's very tangible, psychological, scientific, neurological, whatever the words would be, like a basis behind it. And it has been proven over and over again that our early experiences create neural pathways in our brain. We can see this on MRIs, and those neural pathways get strengthened the more that we travel them. So if we've traveled a neural pathway that says, I'm not good enough, I'm not safe, people will judge me, people will abandon me, my family will not like it if I make money, it can be a million other things. I don't matter, anything like that. You do not have to be conscious of it, but the neural pathway is there and it will dictate what you do. Because if you believe that, like, think of it this way, everybody knows they have beliefs, right? They have political beliefs, they have religious beliefs, they have relationship beliefs. Everybody knows for themselves, like, what they believe is right or wrong. Those were created. Those are neural pathways in your brain, and you will have a very hard time acting in a way that you do not believe is right. If you believe in a monogamous relationship and you try to not have a monogamous relationship, if you go out and you cheat on your partner, you are going to feel that difference. You are not going to be able to continue to do that because your belief is telling you this is not okay. It's the same thing with business. If you're trying to do something and you have static and friction and fear and doubt and overwhelm, all of those are symptoms of just simply having a neural pathway that's not conducive to your current goals, because those things don't change and evolve unless we consciously create new ones. They don't necessarily go away, they weaken, but they stay there. And when we create new ones, we can strengthen those new ones so that they're the ones we travel, like the path of least resistance or water, right? If you have a water ditch, you can create a new water ditch. That other one can slowly diminish, but you have to make sure that you are continuing to create that deeper ditch if that's the way you want to travel. Your mind will always go in the path of least resistance. And if you try not to, you're going to feel it.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, other than
crash
going
course.
to your site, are you active on any social media platforms where people can connect with you?
Currently not, but maybe by the time this comes out, I'm actually taking an extended vacation from YouTube. So they can go to youtube.com/Tara Wagner and find me. You can find a lot of my older content, but I am taking a break. I am focusing on building my business without social media to show people that it can be done, because so many people don't think it can be done. And so I'm doing that for a little while, and then I might go back to it if it's something that I want to do. I don't think it'll be necessary, but we'll see. I do enjoy it. So there's about 4 years of video content there. There's a lot of different playlists on these topics as well. So you can search Tara Wagner Burnout, Tara Wagner, anything mindset, and it's going to pull up some different playlists that people can dive into and have some fun with.
Awesome. Well, in the meantime, I guess people can reply to your emails, and
absolutely. Absolutely. And I will reply back.
Yes. Exactly. So thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate it. And Tara does too, I'm sure. So feel free to share this episode if you feel the desire, if it had an impact on you. And also you can subscribe to get more. So Tara, thank you very much for being here, and
thank you.
See everybody next time.
Thank you. It's been great.